the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what's going on, sir?
Not much. You know, it's last day of my daughter's school. You know, so today she's her very last day of school. So we're getting into summer. It's starting to transition into new seasons, and summer for me always means OTAs and conversations, which, you know, are going on as we speak. But also lots of fun news and nuggets happen after the June 1st cut down date. So I'm excited to talk about some of those that have come out recently. Yeah,
just a couple of housekeeping things. So we're actually, for the next 2 months, going to be cutting back a little bit on our shows. We're still going to have 3 or 4 shows every single week. But there might be a couple days where we don't do shows. This week, we're going to have a show on Friday because the Cowboys have an OTA practice that is open to the media on Thursday. We want to talk about it, so make sure you guys tune back in here on Friday for all the latest news and nuggets out of that practice. Today, Landon, we're actually going to talk about some Cowboys news that we got early on Wednesday morning regarding Leighton Vander Esch. There's been some reports over the last couple of days, some speculation from some bloggers that maybe the Cowboys could trade Leighton Vander Esch. And Jane Slater of the NFL Network addressed some of those rumors and said, listen, the Cowboys have received offers for Leighton Vander Esch. They are not interested right now in trading him. There was also some interesting things to come out of that, such as Leighton Vander Esch actually told the Cowboys to decline his 5th-year option because he believes he can make more money in free agency next year after a strong 2021 season. So let's just kind of dive right into it. What are your thoughts on the Cowboys right now saying no to a Leighton Vander Esch trade?
Yeah, I mean, getting trade offers and getting a decent trade offer are definitely two different things. You know, and as I think there's going to be a tendency, and I'm sure there has already been a tendency on Twitter to say, why wouldn't the Cowboys trade Leighton? They don't need him. No. You know, he has, and they would start talking about all the reasons that they should get rid of him, including injury history and you know, not necessarily playing up to, you know, what we've expected of him since then, even when he was healthy. But those are also all strikes against why he would not be a good trade chip. And that the Cowboys may have gotten offers, but, you know, I mean, trading Leighton Vander Esch for a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick.
I mean, I was gonna say, even a 4th round pick, I probably would consider it then. I've got a feeling, Landon, it's conditional 6th, 7th round pick.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, but let's say it's even a 4th or 5th round pick.
Sure.
I don't even know that that's worth more to you than having Leighton Vander Esch next year. The contract is not great because he's a 1st round pick, but it's not the same as like Jalen's contract. So like,
no, I think he's only getting paid $3 million this year.
Yeah. So I think for the Cowboys, having him on the roster, even at $3 million,
$3.7 million.
Yep. Yeah. Is worth more than just trading him for, you know, I have to agree that it's probably a conditional late round pick that they're offering, and which is why teams are offering. They're seeing that the Cowboys don't value Leighton Vander Esch as much anymore, clearly as indicated by their offseason moves, including the draft and in free agency. And they're seeing a situation where they can get value by trading for a player that the team doesn't see as highly ranked anymore. So, you know, all the trade offers, you know, when spoken generically like that, you can't necessarily assume that they are good offers, you know, just because they were offered. Sometimes teams are just throwing stuff out there to see, you know, if a team will bite, you know. So I think that's likely what's happening here.
Can I say, I also think I'm not interested in a Vander Esch trade unless I'm getting like a player back that's in a similar situation, right? Because
Maybe,
what does a 5th round pick even do for me? You know what I mean? Like, look at the 5th round picks the Cowboys have spent over the last couple of years, and it's just most of the time those guys don't even make your roster. And I just feel like if Vander Esch hits, let's say 90% of his ceiling, he's worth way more than that, even on just a 1-year deal, right? If he's a starting linebacker this year for you, yeah, it's worth more than a 5th round pick. It's worth more than a 4th round pick. I just think the depth here is more important than a conditional day 3 pick.
The chances of Leighton Vander Esch regaining form and playing like he did his rookie year are much higher than a 5th round pick generally making it. You know,
yeah,
like I think
even making your roster, really, honestly.
Yeah. Especially at this point for the Cowboys. Like, there's not a ton of roster spots available. So even next year. So yeah, I can see why they didn't necessarily jump at this at any offer if it wasn't, short of a 2nd or 3rd round pick, which
they're not going to get.
They're not. So
again, the only deal that makes sense is if you're flipping Vander Esch for a player in a similar situation. I brought up Taven Bryan, another 1st round pick from 2018 that plays defensive tackle, but the Cowboys they've got a lot of numbers at defensive tackle, but that's just an example of a trade. And I just don't think there's many out there right now. And my thought is, Landon, if he plays well, you're going to get a lot more at the trade deadline than you would get right now, right? Because there's going to be teams that need linebackers. The Cowboys are going to have depth at linebacker. You might as well wait until we get to the end of training camp or the trade deadline, because I guarantee you there's going to be a stronger market for Vander Esch then than there is now.
Yeah, I think, if you just look at it this way, there is right now he's a hurt, not playing well linebacker who's got 1 year left on his rookie deal. You're going to get more from teams if he's playing like a Pro Bowl linebacker who's only got half the season left on his contract. Even though it's half the season, just the perception is going to be worth more than the, we have 17 games, 8.5 games that he may have played, before the deadline, before you trade him. So I think that there is something there that you let him play out a little bit. You see what you got in Parsons, you see what you got in Cox. And then if you feel comfortable with the depth there and Leighton is playing well, you're likely to get more and feel better about the situation afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jabril Cox. We've been talking about him a ton on this show. But if Leighton Vander Esch is healthy, even as much as he struggled last year, Vander Esch is the better option for this year, right? Because it's going to take Cox some time to get used to this defense, to get used to the speed of the NFL. Preferably, I'd love to have Jabril Cox on the bench this year, have him play special teams, and then in 2022 ramp up his usage. Use Vander Esch. Let's see what he looks like this year, Dan Quinn's defense, and then kind of reevaluate this at the half point of the season. Really quickly, what do you think about Vander Esch telling the front office to decline his fifth year option? That would have guaranteed him $9.6 million.
It's different. I like confidence, and I think that's surely shows it. I don't know that that's financially smart, though.
According to Jane Slater, he believes in the Dak Prescott model of kind of betting on yourself and reevaluating the market next year.
What's the difference there, Marcus? Is that Leighton Vander Esch is a linebacker and Dak Prescott is the franchise quarterback? Yeah, I know that I'm not suggesting that you think that this is a good idea either, but to me, like, I don't know, man. Like, I think you only have a limited number of years in the NFL, especially at linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
I would take all the guaranteed money that's owed me. And if you want to bet on yourself, there's no reason to. I mean, look, we don't even know that. This probably is a moot point, honestly, because we don't even know that even if he had approached the Cowboys and told them not to take the fifth year option, that they would have not taken it anyways, right? Like, but I guess my point is that let's say hypothetically that the Cowboys would have taken it until Leighton had approached them. I don't know why you turn down guaranteed money in the NFL, especially when you have an injury history. I think that's. I understand betting on yourself, but you can bet on yourself while making $9 million guaranteed,
unless
play 2 great seasons.
Unless Leighton just has a great feel of like where he's going to play and maybe his usage and how healthy he is, because I can easily see a scenario, Landon, where he plays really well in this scheme, and he's hits free agency at 25 years old. You look at the linebacker market, like Anthony Hitchens, like 3 years ago, got $9 million per year from the Chiefs. Blake Martinez for the Giants got $10.5 million a year. I don't think it's inconceivable for him to have a really good year and get that kind of money, considering he was a former first-round pick.
Yeah, I guess my point is that I don't see why that you can't do that after the 2022 season and with $9 million more dollars, unless you're actually not confident about your ability to stay healthy and you just want to say, okay, I need to get through one good season to get my payday, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Well, I think the thing is, so he's 25 right now. He turned 25 in February. So if he did do that path of taking the 5th-year option, he wouldn't hit free agency until he was 27. And then our team's going to be as willing to pay. I mean, I know it's only a year, but our team's going to be willing to pay as much money for a 27-year-old linebacker with neck issues. I don't know, but who knows if they're going to be willing to pay a 26-year-old linebacker with neck issues. I don't know. It's a bold strategy, but for the Cowboys, I don't think this is going to work out poorly for them. I really don't, because it's either he's going to play really well and they're either going to be able to re-sign him, or they're going to get a high comp pick. Or if he doesn't play well, they don't owe him anything in 2022 and they can just move on.
Yep, I agree. Or if they wanted to, if he really doesn't play well, they could re-sign him to a nothing contract.
Sure.
And then just see if he can kind of work it out over the next few years and start playing back. If he gets back to his 2018 form and you're signing him to a low cost contract because he couldn't stay healthy this last year, Cowboys get the best of both worlds, and Leighton's wishing he had that $9 million.
It wouldn't shock me if that happens either. We know he's a big Cowboy fan. We know his family, they're all big Cowboys fans. He loves this organization. That wouldn't shock me at all either. Let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about Built Bar, the absolute best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. It's real chocolate with amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste absolutely fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON20 and you'll get 20% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. I also want to tell you guys about Rockauto. Rockauto.com is a family business serving auto parts to customers online for 20 years. They have everything from engine control modules and brake parts, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or your daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. The rockauto.com catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose the brand specifications and prices that you prefer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com today. All right, Landon, a couple other things I want to dive into. Pro Football Focus has started some of their rankings. We've gone over them over the last couple of weeks. They're now starting on their unit rankings, and there's two that I wanted to bring to your attention. The first one is a very good one. The Cowboys wide receiver unit ranks number 2 in the NFL, just behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do you think they have a case to be number 1?
Yeah, I think that they have a case. I mean, I don't know that I think it's a good argument, to be sure. I don't know that I could, it's tough because I think part of it is it's so close that I need to see what everybody looks like, in this coming season, because there is some angle. How has Brown declined? How much has CeeDee Lamb gone up? So I think, is Evans healthy? So all these, I think if you're looking at the names and just kind of generally where they were last year, I think that Tampa Bay has a very solid case. But I also think that the Cowboys have a lot of young guys that are nipping at all these guys' heels and there's a good chance that by the time the 2021 season rolls around, the Cowboys have the better unit.
I like the Cowboys unit better. I think it's more athletic. I think you can have guys that make more plays after the catch. Antonio Brown, I think, is declining a little bit. Mike Evans has struggled with some injuries. Godwin has struggled with some injuries. I think it's just a combination of I love the way the Cowboys receivers fit together, and I'm not so sure they all fit together as well in Tampa Bay. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to have a monster season, but at number 2, I'm fine with it. It's not a big deal. The second one is the running back unit. The Cowboys have the number 5 running back unit in the NFL with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Can you make a case that there's any team that has a better running back stable than the Cowboys?
Do you have the 4 in front of you? This is terrible radio if you don't.
No, I do. It's right here. I believe it's the Browns, which I get, right? Chubb and Hunt is really good.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts with Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack, Nyheim Hines. The New Orleans Saints with Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. And then the Vikings with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. I think they should be.
I think he's better than the Saints.
Yeah, I think they're better than the Saints.
I think that there's 3, is in my opinion.
See, I think you can. I think they're better than that. I think they should be 2 because I think Jonathan Taylor is a better player than Zeke right now, but I'm not taking Hines over Tony Pollard. I'm just not.
Yeah. I mean, Hines. I haven't
really
watched a ton of Colts, so I'm going to defer to you because that's definitely one of the teams that I've spent little time watching. So
I just feel like Pollard's a better overall runner than what Hines is.
Yeah, that seems fair. I mean, Hines is more just like a wide receiver playing running back. Doesn't have a ton of running element to him as much as they wanted, I guess. But I
just want you to get fired up over these rankings. Like I wanted a really hot take. I wanted you to be outraged. You're just not giving it to me.
Let me be honest with you. Let me be completely honest with you. Right now, I'm listening to my daughter blow a whole bunch of kazoos because they're having their graduation, and I'm hoping you're not hearing it. But it's adding some very awesome accentuations to like your Rockauto read. Just like basically everything. So it's like. It was like the Cowboys were ranked the number 5 running back group, and then like it was, so it didn't sound so bad to me. It sounded very celebratory.
Awesome podcasting.
I will say.
I'm glad she's excited about this, but okay.
Yeah, she's clearly very excited about these PFF rankings. I will say I think that people are underselling. People are just too anxious to bury Zeke. I feel like he had. The first bad season he's had, really, as far as performance on the field, not as he's obviously had some off-field stuff that's taken him off the field, but when he has been on the field, he has been consistently great his whole career, minus last year, right? I think that people are too quick to think that this is like decline as opposed to an off year. And so I am looking forward to Zeke having a bounce back season. And I don't even know that necessarily means, more rushing yards than he had previously. I just think more efficient play, maybe more as a wide receiver, just, more just improvement, just kind of like not spending half the season as nearly sluggish as he has been. So I think that, in my mind, Zeke and Pollard are top 3 without a doubt, and are in the conversation for 2 as well. I do think the Browns clearly have an incredible running back unit, maybe the best current running back in the football. And then a guy who not too long ago was probably one of the best running backs in football. So I do think the Browns are kind of a step above everybody else, but I think you can make an argument that if Zeke is able to bounce back the way I anticipate that he will, that the Cowboys should be in that 2 to 5 range, depending on how much he bounces back.
I just don't know what to expect from Zeke because in the first 5 games last year with Dak, he averaged under 4.1 yards per carry. Now, again, the offensive line was in complete shambles, even at that point, right? No Tyron Smith, no Lyle Collins. The fumbles were an issue. He had 5 fumbles in the first 5 games of the season. That's not great, obviously. But are we starting to see the decline of Zeke, or was last year just a complete fluke? I don't know. We did see him again in 2017 or 2018. He averaged 4.7 a carry. 2019 4.5. Last year 4.0. I think he is closer, probably that 4.5 per carry if this offensive line is decent. I think what I'm more interested in, Landon, is Is this the year that we finally see a closer to 50-50 split between Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard? Or is it still going to be one of these 85-15 if both players are healthy?
I think it's going to be interesting to see if, league wide, if teams are starting to adjust their running back policies a little bit more now that we've added one. I mean, it's only one more game. But I don't think it's, as we may discuss, I don't think it's always going to be just one more.
No.
So I think teams may start their kind of planning, or at least start playing with these positions like running back and linebacker a little bit more as far as their usage, because it's a long season. And in these collision positions like linebacker, like running back, they take a lot of hits and they get injured a lot. And so you need healthy bodies playing those positions at all times. And this is all a long way of saying we've had a lot of discussions about linebacker rotation and about how this team has a ton of linebackers on this team, but at the same time, they may play a ton of linebackers because they need to get through the season. I think that also applies to Zeke and Pollard. I think you have to find a way to get both of them through the season. And the best way to do that is to make sure that you're managing both their workloads, because it's a long season. And you don't, a 50-50 split is something that I think that they should look at. But I also think that you need to monitor Pollard too at that point to make sure that Pollard's taking.
Well, it's why I wouldn't even be opposed to them bringing in somebody who's a little bit more proven, just not to take 30% of the touches, but somebody to give them 10% of the touches.
Take a series, right? Like to take a series a game, or maybe even less than that. Just like,
Well, I was even thinking somebody just to do some third down stuff to give Zeke and Pollard a break. Like, I mean, I know I'm a little biased, but like Duke Johnson is a free agent. Like if you could bring in Duke Johnson, I know. If you could bring in Duke Johnson and give him 100 snaps over the course of the season just to give those guys a break, or if you're up in games, you can lean on him. I think that would be really wise, because when you get to January, you don't want to have Ezekiel Elliott have nearly 400 touches on him. You want him to be fresh. And I just think that's better for everybody.
I'm not this guy specifically, but I would love to get like a Rod Smith type, right?
Sure.
A guy who could give you some flexibility, would be a good special teams player, but could also run the ball well enough when the blocking is there that you're not afraid to give him carries, just regular, on a semi-regular basis, whether or like you said, just third down snaps where you feel safe that he's going to be a good personal protector and be able to do things like that. Well, somebody that has some versatility to him, that can give you some special teams, but also that is not someone who's going to be noticeable when on the field, because Zeke and Pollard aren't.
And there's some guys out there, whether you want to get like a smaller guy like a Deion Lewis or Chris Thompson, those guys make sense. A TJ Yeldon has some special teams experience as well. There are some guys out there. I'll be curious to see if the Cowboys add one of those. Really quickly, Landon, before we go, I want to tell you guys about Bet Online. Head to Bet Online's website right now, or use your mobile device to sign up today, and you can receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. We've got baseball, we've got basketball, we've got UFC this weekend, a really fun card coming up in 2 weeks. Go to Bet Online, your online sportsbook expert. Use the promo code LOCKEDON for a 50% welcome bonus. Make sure you guys are doing that. I wanted to talk about the 18-game schedule that Peter King proposed in his latest piece on NBC Sports. Sounds like that is very likely. It's not going to happen next year, but in the near future. 18-game schedule. How do you feel about it? Do you think they're going to just completely eliminate the preseason and go with this 18-game schedule? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that there's going to be more negotiation about the preseason when we talk about the 18th game. Look, the 18th game should not surprise anybody. They've been talking about this before they started talking about the 17-game season. 17-game season clearly was a stepping stone to this 18 game. I think there's going to be a fight. I mean, I think there's going to be more of a fight than there was for the 17-game season, because ultimately the players know that they probably didn't fight hard enough over the 17-game part.
So do you think the solution is just to get rid of preseason games altogether and just kind of do it like college football?
I think that they may, if they can do it that way, then that would work. I also think that they have to consider adding a second bye, right? Like, I mean, and doing
so that way you would have it would be 20 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could do that. I think that would make a lot of sense.
I just think that, ultimately the rest is what's important. I mean, playing the 18 games, by removing the preseason games, you're really only helping a small percentage of these players that are potentially going to be playing 18 games, because most of these guys that are your starters, they're not playing, they're playing a series. So like, or like 2 series, so taking 12 snaps out of 2 games, is not exactly balancing the scales for adding a whole other game at the end of the year. And especially when you add the fact in that they've added 2 games in, whenever they add it, they will have added 2 games in 2 years or whatever. I think that they need to consider a second bye just to simply, and I know that that's going to make the scheduling just absolutely bonkers, but I just think that that's the only way that you're going to be able to get some of these people's bodies through an 18-game season. It's just too brutal a sport, and it's only getting worse as people get more and more athletic.
Yeah, so I think the solution here, get rid of preseason, right? It makes it easier. It's 2 less games you have to worry about and prepare for and travel for. Have 2 buys, as you suggested, and then I think go to like 60-man rosters, and you can have 55 guys active, right?
Yeah,
because then you
can do something with the roster counts.
Right. Because then you can at least limit some of the snaps for running backs, linebackers, defensive linemen. I think that makes a lot of sense. So it's coming. If I set the over at like, let's say 2030, do you think we'll have it before then or after that?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well before that. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't even think we're 5 years out, honestly.
Okay. How long before we're having international games in like Germany?
That 2030 would be a good.
I think that's going to happen. I think. See, that's why I think we're going to have 2 buys, right? Because you're going to get a buy coming back from your Germany trip or whatever, wherever you decide to play the international game, plus your regular in-season buy. It's happening.
I think the next step would be to make Jacksonville the Jacksonville/London Jaguars.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think we need to. That'd be a lot of fun for the NFL. We're going to have international teams. Do you think we'll have expansion soon?
If you're going to do international, honestly, you have to consider a whole division there, right? Simply because I think, right? Like, I think just because for scheduling and for fairness, I think, and then you have to figure out, this is a whole other podcast, but I think you have to have a whole division over there so that they can, figure out a way for those players to, play a lot of games close by and not constantly having to travel over the Atlantic constantly, right? And then you have to have a home away from home in America for each one of those teams, right? You have to have a place where they can go, a facility on the United States side that they can go to train at, in order to, because you just can't have them train, have 5 days of practice and then fly overseas for every single game. That's just a completely competitive disadvantage for the team.
That would be a lot of fun. What would we'd name that division? The NFC Way East, something like that.
You can't really call it the Far East, but I guess. NFC Europe.
NFC Europe. I think that'd be incredible. You know how much fun that would be for the NFL fans in Europe to have their own division, their own rivalry games over there.
I mean, you might have 2, right? Like NFC and AFC Europe.
So that'd be a lot of fun. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Continue to follow the show on YouTube. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We will see